Hi, hello. Today I want to talk a little bit about the importance of personal practice. Okay, so why is it important that you actually can learn to practice yoga at home? So just to talk a little bit about myself. So I don't know if you've been to my class. If you come to my class, most of my classes are sort of general level physical yoga, so posture-based yoga. But when I practice at home, I almost exclusively practice Ashtanga Yoga. So maybe not everybody's familiar with Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is a strong, so Ashtanga Yoga is type of Hatha Yoga, but it's strong form of Hatha Yoga. So lots of quite strong postures. And there are so each series, is said to be, there are 6 series, but I only know up to 3rd series, and each series probably contains more than 100 postures. And first, second, third, so it progressively gets more and more difficult. And in each series, postures are organized in such a way that you always follow the same sequence. So the idea is if you do one posture, it prepares to the next posture. And then you practice the same sequence every day. So when I initially learned Ashtanga Yoga, so that's like 30 years ago, it was taught really quite in a rigid way. So any deviation from the series were frowned upon. So you really had to stick with this strong, strict sequence. So my teacher wasn't that strict, but he said some teachers, if you miss one posture, then some posture makes you go back to where it was and follow the sequence. So there is kind of a faith in the sequence, why these postures were put in such order. So as you practice week after week, day by day, day after day, you learn the sequence. So eventually you can practice at home, and that's really the strength of Ashtanga Yoga. And although it used to be taught really, really rigidly, now more, I think most yoga teachers, Ashtanga teachers, do other practice as well, being at least taught by other teachers of other styles. So more and more Ashtanga teachers are getting flexible, that they are happy to mix with other styles or change the sequence, modify. So it's started moving away from very strict, old-fashioned classical teaching. And I think it's a good thing. And anyway, so you might think, if I practice Ashtanga Yoga, I must be so strong and I must be so full of energy if I practice every day. But that's not the case. Although I practice every day, virtually every day, I don't always practice the full Ashtanga set, and that usually takes like 2 hours. Most of my practice at home is 1 hour or even less. And sometimes I feel energetic enough to do follow the strict order, but sometimes I just skip a few things, or sometimes I start at the beginning, sun salutation, then just jump and go towards the later part of the series. Some days I don't feel strong enough, so I just do easy options, make everything easier. Sometimes even if I do the same sequence, I have different emphasis. So sometimes today I just take each posture really slowly and not go so deeply. Or sometimes I feel the opposite. I feel very, very energetic and want to do through the series very quickly. So I modify how I'm feeling on the day and what other demand of the day. I may not have long times. I may have to do very quick practice, like 20 minutes, or sometimes I can practice a long time. So I can, because now I know the sequence and I know all the postures, I can modify in the way I want to suit my need on each occasion. And so there are lots of rules for Ashtanga, kind of quirky Ashtanga rules. And lots of teachers started to doubt and question the importance of them. I think that strength of Ashtanga Yoga, most important thing for me is the sequence, because you learn the sequence eventually, so you know it by heart, so you can practice on your own. And after a while, you can modify in the way you want to suit your needs. So, just talking about the yoga practice in general now. So, have you ever been to a yoga class, being taught by somebody, and maybe something's going on in your life? You switched your mind off, and you start thinking about things, but just in autopilot, just follow the teacher, what teacher's doing, without really engaging in the brain. So just physically follow the teacher. So you did physically you did exercise, but not really mentally engaging. It happens to everybody, I think. Often we can tell, we teachers can tell, but we just don't say. But I'm sure more often we can't tell. So we think you're working really, really hard, but maybe you're just blindly following what we're doing. But that's fine. But really, whatever style of yoga you're doing, whether you're Ashtanga or any other style, I think, this is my view, that yoga is a skill to learn. So you go to yoga class, you want to do yoga with other people and enjoy, but also you want to learn the skills. So really, ideally, I'd like you to try to learn the postures, not just the shape of it, but how to get into the postures, get out of the postures. And once you're in the postures, there are lots of cues, like pull up the knees, pull your tummy, abdominal muscle in, open the chest, hands facing this way, that way. All these cues, I want you to try to remember. Of course, you cannot learn them in one session. So eventually, these cues would stay in your head. So when you're going down dog, for example, you can organize yourself. So you, without being told, you can do how to set your hands, how to work your shoulders, how to work your legs. Okay, so these cues are in your head. And also how you breathe, whether you should inhale or exhale, move this way with inhalation, move this way in exhalation. All these things I want you to learn. And the reason is so that you can practice at home. Practice at home to suit your needs. And you don't have to do what you do in the class, in the organization-wise, sequence-wise. You can do at your pace. You can do faster or slower. You can do just a few postures, or you can do a long session of hour and a half or 2 hours even. But you need to know them. So you need to know the postures. So my suggestion is, when you're in the class, enjoy by all means, really enjoy the moment, be there, but also mentally really be engaged. And if you can, try to remember the details of the postures so you can practice safely at home. And yoga is about being present, enjoying each moment, appreciating each posture, each move, each breath. But it's also about commitment and discipline. So when you start yoga, when you start learning, going to yoga class, you might be very motivated. Maybe it's January, or something, you watched something, read something, get motivated to go. But motivation is an unreliable thing. So to keep up regularly, you need to establish some system. So decide you do yoga, then commit to your practice and discipline yourself, whether you go to a class or practice at home. Okay? I don't always look forward to my self-practice. I often have to just tell myself, I just go on the mat. I just do one posture. Then often, well, I never stopped after one posture. I always carry on the whole sequence. Sometimes I take it easy, but it's just the first move. It's difficult. So you need to discipline yourself and commit yourself to your practice. And why is it important? That I really want to emphasize. Because making yoga as part of your day or part of your life is like creating a safe refuge, safe sanctuary in your life. Looking back, I have been doing yoga for 30 years or more, and I can honestly say yoga is the longest relationship I have in my life with anybody, and most dependable. And it never lets me down. Cannot say that to every relationship. So, yoga is something, your practice is something you can always turn to whatever is happening in your life. It's always there for you. I always say to people, especially to my children, life is not a long, quiet river. So sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days, sometimes you have really bad days. Yoga is something, once you establish the sanctuary of yoga, it's something you can always turn to. You can always go to. You always feel safe when you're doing yoga. You're always in control. And you always feel a little bit better, even just for a little bit. Okay, so this is, for me, the biggest reason why it's important to establish your own self-practice.